Pros, save more on the materials you need to get the job done, inside and out, at Lowe's. Right now, get 10% off in-stock Trex Naturals decking, now available in more styles. Plus, get 15% off select custom entry, interior, and storm doors. Then, we'll deliver it all straight to your job site to help keep your jobs moving. Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Nobody does it better than Regent Seven Seas Cruises. Enjoy all-inclusive, unrivaled luxury with unlimited shore excursions, indulgent cuisine, personalized service, and more aboard spacious all-suite ships. Visit rssc.com to experience the unrivaled.
Looking for these better days.
It is Friday, May 22nd. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. Don't be sad that it's over. Just be happy that you lived through it. Karl Anthony Towns finally went under his assist prop. No, that's not the headline. The Knicks take a 2-0 series lead over the Cleveland Cavaliers and are halfway to their first NBA Finals appearance since 1999. Mackenzie Rivers joins me on this episode of Better Day, presented by FanDuel. Mackenzie, yes, for the first time in 9 games, Karl Anthony Towns went under his assist prop. The Knicks get the 109-93 victory over the Cleveland Cavaliers in what many Knicks fans are calling the Josh Hart game. Clearly, the Cleveland Cavaliers decided their defensive strategy was going to be to let Hart go wide open and don't guard him. And Josh Hart responded by going 5 of 11 from three-point range, a career playoff high 26 points as the Knicks went on a big, 18-0 run in the third quarter and just went on to dominate this game against the Cavs.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Jalen Brunson, after 38 points, remarkable game 1, had a career-high assists with 14 in game 2. Very much like the dubbed Alex Caruso game in game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where, if you leave a guy wide open, he doesn't have to be Steph Curry. I mean, you watch these guys in practice, they can make 5 out of 7 threes, no problem. Even if you're, Rasheed Wallace, or even Ben Wallace can knock down some. I mean, they were giving him dare shots essentially. And Josh Hart, as he noted in the post game, shooters shoot, 0 for 3 to start, didn't phase him, hit 5 of his last 8. Mm-hmm. And, the Knicks offense was probably better than game 1, but pretty close to game 1. The Cavs offense was really the problem, where Evan Mobley, and it seems like there's a referendum on Donovan Mitchell after every series and every playoff game. He wasn't great, kind of turned up in the second half, but Evan Mobley, 0 shot attempts in the second half. It's absolutely flabbergasting. And they're all saying, it's all of our responsibility. We got to feed him more. If you had 3 shots, you could say it's all of your responsibility. If you have 0 shots, that is very strange for a player that was supposed to be, at this point in their trajectory, either, the best or 1A for this Cavs team. In all playoffs, I think he's drastically underperformed. They're going to need him to at least be, probably outscore Karl Anthony Towns at the very least, if not dominate on both sides of the ball, and they're not getting it from him.
Do you think, is Mike Brown playing chess? He's clearly
during the
out-coaching
game.
Kenny.
I got this in the bag. I'm playing chess.
Well, he's clearly out coaching Kenny Atkinson, who doesn't call timeouts in game number 1, and just decides to leave Josh Hart open in game number 2. But in game number 1, let's go back earlier in the playoffs. The reason why Karl Anthony Towns went over his assist prop in 8 straight games, and we cashed in all 8 of them, was because there was a fundamental change in the way the Knicks ran the offense after losing those 2 games in a row to the Atlanta Hawks. And now here we have game 1 of this series where Josh Hart gets benched for the entire fourth quarter and overtime. And in this game, Kenny Atkinson's probably it's going to be a Shamet game. And we talked about the props. I did the pod with Michael Fiddle yesterday, and we talked about Shamet overs. We talked about Josh Hart maybe, not being as trusted. But then Mike Brown just says, no, we're going to run the offense through Josh Hart. Jalen Brunson's going to pass, and it's going to be a Josh Hart game. Is he just putting on a master class of coaching in these playoffs?
I think he might be in this way, because a lot of times I always wonder when coaches get asked stuff in the post press conference, why answer anything? Why is this is what we were thinking? Why would any of it be helpful? And maybe Mike Brown said it's going to be helpful because I'm going to call out, we're no secret. We're going after James Harden every time we can. We're going to try to get Jalen Brunson one-on-one with Harden. Well, the Cavs listen to that, or at least some of the staffers listen to that, if not the coach himself listening. And the players know, like, all right, this is a huge hole in our defense. How do we respond to that? Well, if you're not going to switch, you're going to double generally in the NBA. And if you're going to double and you get people out of rotation, people are going to get open. And the fact that Josh Hart was a minus 23 in game one, yeah, he was probably the one guy they're like, let's leave him open. Let's, see if he can stay on the court. And yeah, he can. He's a top 100 player in the NBA for a reason.
Yeah, I also think that we just need to acknowledge what has made the Knicks so special. And yes, people made fun of it at the time and still do, the Villanova Knicks, right? But these players have been playing together for years. They're literally brothers. They're best friends. They're roommates. It's not just a podcast. Brunson and Hart are roommates. They were roommates, right? Josh Hart had one of his worst career games in a big moment, and Brunson brought the team back and they stole game one. And now in game number two, Brunson just said, I got you, bro, and just kept passing it to Josh Hart, who kept nailing the shots. That can't go understated.
As bettors, we were always saying, are we overreacting to one game? And yeah, I guess Shamit, one shot, we're overreacting to one game. The real irony is that the best teams, and especially teams that have that muscle memory, know how different 100 possessions can be if you just randomly rerun the simulation. And yeah, they have trust in each other, probably more than any other team in the NBA. To a fault, maybe if and maybe not to a fault. Maybe it's working out for them. Yeah, they're about to make the finals for the first time in 25 years. So they're probably better as a collective than their talent, which is not common in the NBA.
1999 was a year where the Knicks they were no match for that San Antonio Spurs team, right? But also,
and they're not going to be this time.
And they're not going to be a match for this San Antonio Spurs team. We're literally getting a 1999 rematch. You realize that, right? But the reason why the Knicks made the NBA finals in 99 was because it was a lockout shortened year, right?
Yeah.
And people forget
seed,
that.
Right?
Yes, people forget that, where they're like, oh, well, the Knicks, what a great run they had to go to the NBA finals. It's like, you forget the Knicks were in the finals a couple of years earlier. The Knicks, they were still a really great team. In fact, they got better because Allen Houston was awesome, whatever. But they were just a victim of not, the season wasn't long enough. If the season continued, the Knicks are not the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. They probably they're gonna win more games. Let's see, in 99, 99 standings. Let's see, the Knicks finished 1999 standings. Let's go Basketball Reference. That's the best place to look. Knicks finished 27-23. Okay, so that was the 8th place in the Eastern Conference, but the Sixers were one win ahead of them, 28-22. The Pistons were 29-21. The Bucks were 28-22. Literally, if the season was longer, the Knicks might have been the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Maybe even the 1 seed. Who knows?
Yeah, I think the Sixers were the 1 seed for 2 months last year. Ended up the 7th seed. That happens all the time.
Exactly. And meanwhile, that Spurs team, 37-13 that year. And, that was the one year where if you go look back at Popovich's tenure, and it's he wins, what was it, 50 something games or,
20 years in a row.
It was every year except for the 37 win season. But that was because it was a lockout shortened season, and they were on pace. They were on pace at a 740 winning percentage. They were on pace to win 60 something games. So yeah, we're gonna have it's 1999 all over again here in 2026. Knicks Spurs in the NBA Finals. Well, let's see what that pays out, Mackenzie. Right now, Knicks to win the series, overwhelming favorites over the Cavs. Although in game number 3 coming up tomorrow, Cavs 2.5-point home favorites. Now they've been here before. They have done this before. Come back from 2-0 down. Do we apply the zig-zag here, and are we betting Cleveland, especially in the first quarter?
They dropped one home game in these playoffs. I think their crowd was pretty raucous in game 3 to pull them back in the Pistons against the Cavs. Yeah, I think it's the perfect situation for the zig-zag. I think this is a 6-game series, if not a 7-game series. They got to get game 3 to make that happen.
They did in game number 3, they against the Pistons, a 32-30 first quarter victory. So the first quarter money line came in there. In game number, it wasn't the same in the other series because they
Toronto
actually
series because they were home.
Yeah, they won. They won the first 2 games and then lost the next 2. So, yeah. I think that we have to go back to the well with our system, even though I'm on the Knicks, and I think the Knicks obviously are going to win this series. I think we have to bet Cleveland in the first quarter coming up tomorrow. Tonight,
I like maybe split between the first quarter and the first half. Cavs 32-18 in game 3, so it was kind of the second half where they broke it open. Second quarter where they broke it up.
Tonight, it is game number 3 of the Western Conference Finals. The series tied at a game apiece. San Antonio, a 1.5-point home favorite against the Oklahoma City Thunder. It feels to me like the zigzag. It feels to me like the first quarter system. I want to be on San Antonio in the first quarter, especially seeing them as a short favorite in this game, because seeing the favorite coming off of a loss makes me want to bet them more in the first quarter. What do you think about that?
The Spurs were the number 1 ATS first quarter team all season. It's because they have a phenomenal center that comes out, and when
wins
everyone's
the tip.
Wins the tip first of all. I mean, that's not nothing. That's a half point to your advantage right away. I think he's like minus 500 every game to win the tip. I saw some people betting that. But you're going to get when everyone's your freshest, that's when your freak of nature, I think, is going to separate himself the most. So yeah, that's why I think him, Embiid, Jokic, they're all great first quarter players, especially. I mean, they're great players overall. And the Thunder, even when they were in the great spot game 2, our money line first quarter idea pushed because they kind of like the second quarter more. They kind of like using their depth more. That's their advantage. They played 11 guys in game 2. The injury situation, I think, favors the Spurs in the game and early. So it seems like everybody's questionable. My read is that De'Aaron Fox is going to play and Jalen Williams is going to play. I feel like 20 turnovers in 2 games for Stephen Castle. He had some great highlights, some great plays. They're probably encouraged for his future, but they need him to do half as much. And I think he's going to be in a great position to do less and be more effective when De'Aaron Fox comes back. The Thunder get Jalen Williams back, supposedly. This season, and even a lot of last season, the data is not very strong, especially his first couple games back. I think it kind of gets SGA a little bit out of his rhythm. Is it a coincidence that Williams' first game back was SGA's worst game of the playoffs? Kind of by a lot. He's leading the playoffs in points per game, but all of that is without Jalen Williams. He had one really bad game, at least shooting-wise, and that was when Jalen Williams comes back. So I think there's some tentativeness there, and I think De'Aaron Fox kind of fits in more seamlessly than Jalen Williams. So I think that's going to help the Spurs throughout the game. It's very counterintuitive. It's usually like players back, that's good. With Jalen Williams, I've noticed the data doesn't exactly support that.
Well, I think De'Aaron Fox plays tonight. Obviously, Dylan Harper's not going to play. Like that's what it seems like for the Spurs, right? It seems like it's going to be Fox, yes, Harper, no. And I don't think that Jalen Williams plays tonight with his hamstring after leaving game number 3.
And I was loud wrong. My whole handicap about game 2 was De'Aaron Fox coming back, and he didn't play. So these injury reports can be difficult to read. So I think that actually helps the Thunder, especially early, to just use their muscle memory of what they've been doing without Jalen Williams. Long term, they want him, but I do think short term, it's a little bit of a hiccup if he does play.
I think every Oklahoma City beat writer is like exactly saying your point. Like they're better off without him. So, and maybe that's the reason why they might hold him out for, to make sure that he's ready for maybe game number 4 or game number 5, because this is going to be a series that's going at least 6 games between the Spurs and the Thunder. Here's your latest NBA Finals odds up on FanDuel. Thunder minus 110, Spurs plus 210, Knicks plus 390. Should we be betting the Knicks plus 390, Mackenzie? They have a 2-game-to-none lead over the Cavs. They're going to win this series. When they get to the finals, are they going to be higher than plus 390 against either the Spurs or the Thunder?
Especially against the Spurs, I think they're more like 2-1. I think they, as freakish as Wemby is and as overmatched as they will be, it'll be an uphill climb. They just have so much more veteran leadership than the Spurs. I do think they could catch them against. I think the Thunder match up well against them. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get the points from the perimeter with all the different wing defenders that the Thunder have. So if you're a Knicks fan, I think you're also a Spurs fan.
Okay. I'm just asking.
Which is, by the way, is everybody. Seems like every single person is very heavily rooting for the Knicks and the Spurs, like respectively, separately.
It feels it feels good. It feels good. I mean, come on. I mean, this is our time, Mackenzie. This is our time.
Relish
here
it.
for the we're in relish it. All right. From the NBA playoffs, let's take a look at the Stanley Cup playoffs. VGK back in action tonight. Stanley Cup playoffs last night. The Carolina Hurricanes looked like a team that had not played in 11 days as the Montreal Canadiens jumped out to an early lead and went on to win 6-2, stealing game one of the Eastern Conference Finals. Carolina actually scored 34 seconds into the game, and you thought, here we go again. The team that swept their first two series was going to roll again here in their third series of the playoffs. But Montreal answered literally less than a minute or less than 30 seconds or so later when Cole Caulfield tied the game thanks to some bad puck possession in the Carolina defensive end. In fact, Carolina was so sloppy with the puck in their own defensive end so many times last night that Montreal was just there to take advantage of loose pucks, and they were quicker to the loose pucks. They were better. They were crisper, and they looked like a team that was just playing a different game. Certainly, there were quotes after the game from Rod Brindamore and others talking about the layoff. I think all the players like Seth Jarvis and them said, no, the layoff is not what caused us to play like this. But Brindamore said after the game, quote, "We clearly were not ready for that pace. I'm not going to give the layoff as an excuse, but we weren't ready to play playoff hockey, and that caught us," end quote. That was his response to the first period, in which I mentioned Carolina took that early lead. Montreal responded with 4 unanswered goals. We played the over 5.5 last night. There was 5 goals scored in the first period. Montreal had that 4-1 lead. They looked incredible in that first period. They looked incredible the entire night. And Frederik Andersen specifically in net, who has been so good. People were talking about him as a potential Conn Smythe Trophy winner. For Carolina, he looked like a goaltender that did not play playoff hockey for 11 days. And you can only simulate so much in practice. You can only simulate so much in shoot around. When you get to the high pressure moments of a Stanley Cup playoff game, you just don't know until you're in that mix. And for a guy who has been so dominant this entire postseason run, was anything but last night. So Montreal, congratulations. They now have a 1-0 lead, stealing home ice, if you will, from the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina was an overwhelming favorite last night, one of the highest favorites we've had in some time in a game one in a Stanley Cup playoff series. Now taking a look up on FanDuel at not just the odds for game number 2, we'll get to in a moment, but the odds for the series now up on FanDuel. Carolina's still a favorite, which I'm not going to not make them the favorite. Like, they've been so good, they deserve it. They are minus 125. You can still get Montreal plus 104 to win this series now that they have a 1-0 lead. Game number 2, back in Carolina, coming up tomorrow night. The Hurricanes minus 200, same total, 5.5, juiced at minus 132 to the over. And it's really hard not to bet Carolina in this game with as good as they have been throughout the entirety of these playoffs. For them to bounce back after a loss, it's just the natural zigzag that we talk about, like in the NBA playoffs. It feels like the spot to back Carolina, but I actually think I might go with Montreal on the puck line, plus 1.5, because Montreal could very easily win the game, but also it could be a tightly contested game with how important that game is for both of these teams. Like, if Montreal wins and they take a 2-0 lead, going home for game number 3, that is a massive position of strength. But if they lose game number 1, sure, you always say, listen, what do you want to do on the road, right? Well, we want to just split the road games and, steal home ice advantage or steal home court advantage, whatever it is. But I actually think that if Carolina gets this win, they settle down, they regroup, they feel like, okay, we lost game 1 because of the 11-day layoff. Now we're in the swing of things. We know we're the more talented team, we're the fresher team, and we're going to go on and dominate this series. And I feel like Carolina gets their groove back with a win here in game number 2. So I might actually be interested in a Canadiens plus 1.5 play here, thinking that, hey, Montreal could win, but also they could keep it close, and this could be tightly contested, maybe even we get to overtime here between these two teams. But Montreal's been so darn impressive, really, this entire playoffs. But they have had to go 7 games in both of their first two series, excuse me. Western Conference Finals, game number 2 tonight in Colorado. The Avalanche minus 192 over the Golden Knights. Total here is 6.5, juiced at minus 130 to the under up on FanDuel. And it's a similar situation where the home team drops game 1. Do they respond here in game number 2? Well, I looked it up, and this obviously applies to Carolina as well. Since 2021, teams that lose game 1 at home in the Stanley Cup playoffs bounce back in game number 2 to go 19-9 straight up. So 19-9, those teams go in game number 2. Now, I'm very curious to see how heavy favorites do in game number 2, or in, the heavy favorite that lost in game number 1, let's say. So check this out. The history of the database, okay? If you were a minus 200 favorite in game number 1 and you lost that game, in game number 2, you are 13-3 straight up. This goes back to 2008. Now, that would be really good on Carolina, but get this. Those 16 games, the 13-3 record straight up, on the minus 1.5 puck line, those teams are only 8-8. So maybe Montreal plus 1.5 is the move in that game. For tonight's game, I just like the Golden Knights in this series. We talked about betting them plus 1.5 games, and they've already gotten 1 game. We need them to win 2 more. I don't care when they come, as long as they win 2 more games in this series. Is either going to be a Knights series victory or it's guaranteed to go 7. I like the Knights in this entire series. Cale Makar's status is obviously the most important thing for the Colorado Avalanche. We don't have an update on him. Jared Bednar, the Colorado Avalanche head coach, yesterday talked about Makar skating during their practice, their skate around, and he just said, quote, "I don't have an update." Well, that's great. And we see guys skate all the time, whether it's wearing the non-contact jersey or whatever, and we just don't know until the day of the game or, hours before the game whether or not that player is going to dress or not. So wait and see what is going to happen with Cale Makar tonight. But without Cale Makar, it's Vegas for me. Vegas plus 158 on the money line. You can up on FanDuel. They are minus 168 if you want to take them plus 1.5 goals. And I'll go back to the well with a bet that I lost in the first game, which is the first period to go over 1.5 goals. I think we get a much higher scoring first period here tonight than we did in game number 1. Major League Baseball, we got an interesting series getting underway tonight in the Bronx. And that is the New York Yankees taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. That's right, the first place Tampa Bay Rays with a record of 33-15, the best record in the American League, the second best record in all of Major League Baseball. The Yankees 4.5 games back of the Rays in the American League East standings, and Garrett Cole expected to make his season debut tonight for the Yankees. Up on FanDuel, New York is a minus 162 favorite. And with the fact that it's Cole making his season debut and with as good as the Rays have been, it's going to be really hard to not be intrigued by wanting to bet the Rays plus 136 or maybe plus a 1.5 in this game. I just don't know what you're going to get out of Garrett Cole. Last week, He threw 86 pitches in 5 1/3 innings for AAA Scranton in his final rehab start. He did reach 99.6 miles per hour on his four-seam fastball. So the velocity is a good sign, but do you want him to rev it up to 100% in his first start back? As for how Garrett Cole's feeling, he said, quote, "I'm confident, I'm optimistic. I definitely know there's some work in front of us. It's just the right time to take the next step," end quote. So take the next step, I think, is what you have to be cautious with. So be careful with Garrett Cole props tonight. Let's see how he does here in his first major league start of the 2026 season. For a full breakdown of tonight's Major League Baseball schedule, be sure to tune in to Colby Marchio and Jake Hassan, who will be streaming their podcast Off the Board on the Better Day YouTube and Twitter page later on this afternoon. You can listen to that episode right here on this very same Better Day podcast feed. For Mackenzie Rivers, I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.